Tensions between Washington and Tehran are once again intensifying, adding a new layer of uncertainty to an already volatile Middle East. The latest escalation follows remarks and actions by U.S. President Donald Trump that have raised questions about Washington's intentions, even as officials insist that diplomacy remains the preferred option. At the same time, the United States is visibly reinforcing its military posture in the region, while Iran is responding with defiance and warnings of severe retaliation should any new confrontation occur. President Trump recently announced that all meetings with Iranian officials have been canceled, a move that signals a further cooling of already strained diplomatic channels. This decision came alongside public comments in which he appeared to encourage ongoing protests within Iran. In a message that quickly drew global attention, Trump told Iranians to continue demonstrating and declared that help is on the way. However, he did not explain what form that assistance might take, leaving analysts, allies, and adversaries alike to speculate about Washington's intentions. When pressed by reporters later in the day to clarify what he meant by promising help to Iranian protesters, the president declined to provide any specifics. Asked directly what kind of assistance he was referring to, Trump responded evasively, saying only that people would have to figure that one out. The lack of detail has fueled uncertainty and concern, particularly given the broader context of rising military preparedness and increasingly sharp rhetoric between the two countries. During the same exchange with reporters, Trump was questioned about reports of casualties among protesters in Iran. He acknowledged that people had been killed, but said that no accurate figures were available. According to the president, he had heard a wide range of estimates, from relatively low numbers to significantly higher ones. He remarked that even a single death was unacceptable, but emphasized that clarity would likely emerge in the coming days as more information became available. Despite the uncertainty, he suggested that the death toll was substantial, reinforcing the sense that the situation on the ground in Iran is serious and potentially worsening. While political statements and diplomatic signals continue to shift, the United States military has been taking concrete steps to prepare for possible developments. On the ground, American forces are strengthening their defensive and operational posture across the region. The Pentagon's Central Command recently announced the establishment of a new air and missile defense operations cell at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. This base is the largest U.S. military installation in the Middle East and plays a critical role in coordinating American military activities across the region. The new operations cell is intended to improve coordination with regional partners and enhance readiness in the face of potential threats, particularly those involving missile and air attacks. Officials have framed the move as a defensive measure, designed to protect U.S. forces and allies rather than to signal an imminent offensive action. Nevertheless, the timing of the announcement, coming amid heightened political tensions and sharp exchanges between Washington and Tehran, has drawn significant attention. Al Udeid Air Base has been at the center of regional tensions before. Last year, it was targeted by Iranian missiles in retaliation for U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. That episode served as a stark reminder of how quickly political disputes can escalate into direct military confrontation. The memory of that exchange remains fresh for military planners on both sides, and it underscores the risks inherent in the current situation. From Tehran's perspective, the tone has been resolute and confrontational. Iranian officials have rejected what they describe as U.S. intimidation and have emphasized that the country is far better prepared to respond to any new aggression than it was in the past. Iran's military leadership has stated that its capabilities have been significantly enhanced since last year's conflict, suggesting that any future clash would be met with a more powerful and coordinated response. Iran's defense minister has issued a particularly stark warning, cautioning that if U.S. threats move beyond words and turn into concrete action, Iran will defend itself with what he described as full force. He also warned that any countries that assist Washington in such actions could find themselves drawn into the conflict and become targets as well. This statement appears aimed not only at the United States, but also at regional allies that host U.S. forces or cooperate closely with American military operations. Despite the hardening rhetoric, U.S. officials continue to maintain that diplomacy remains their preferred path forward. The White House has emphasized that it is still open to negotiations and that military options are not the first choice. At the same time, officials have made it clear that all options remain on the table. Washington has repeatedly stated that it is prepared to act if it believes that American interests, personnel, or allies are under imminent threat. This dual-track approach, publicly favoring diplomacy while quietly reinforcing military readiness, has become a familiar feature of U.S. policy toward Iran. Supporters argue that it provides leverage and deterrence, signaling strength while leaving room for negotiation. Critics, however, warn that such a strategy carries significant risks, particularly in an environment where miscommunication or miscalculation could quickly spiral into open conflict. The situation is further complicated by the internal dynamics within Iran. Protests, economic pressures, and political divisions have placed the Iranian leadership under strain. External statements of support for protesters, especially from a long-standing adversary like the United States, can have unpredictable effects. While some protesters may welcome international attention, Iranian authorities often portray such comments as evidence of foreign interference, which can be used to justify crackdowns and rally nationalist sentiment. Against this backdrop, Trump's statement that help is on the way takes on added significance. Without clarity about what that help entails, whether diplomatic pressure, economic measures, humanitarian assistance, or something else entirely, the remark has left room for a wide range of interpretations. For Iranian leaders, it may reinforce suspicions of U.S. involvement in domestic unrest. For protesters, it may raise expectations that cannot easily be met. For U.S. allies and adversaries, it adds another element of unpredictability to an already tense situation. The military preparations underway suggest that Washington is determined to avoid being caught off guard. The expansion of air and missile defense capabilities at Al Udeid reflects concerns about Iran's missile arsenal and its willingness to use it, as demonstrated in past confrontations. By strengthening coordination with regional partners, the United States aims to create a more integrated defense network capable of responding quickly to any escalation. At the same time, Iran's warnings indicate that it is prepared to respond not only to direct U.S. actions, but also to the involvement of third countries. This raises the stakes for regional actors, many of whom are already navigating complex relationships with both Washington and Tehran. A misstep by any party could have cascading effects, drawing multiple countries into a broader conflict. As diplomatic channels appear to be stalled and military readiness increases on both sides, the margin for error is narrowing. History in the region offers numerous examples of how quickly tensions can escalate, often triggered by misunderstandings or isolated incidents that spiral out of control. In such an environment, even symbolic actions or ambiguous statements can have outsized consequences. The coming days and weeks will be critical in determining whether the current standoff moves toward renewed negotiations or slides closer to confrontation. Much will depend on how both sides interpret each other's actions and rhetoric, as well as on developments within Iran itself. For now, uncertainty dominates the landscape, with diplomacy, deterrence, and the risk of miscalculation all in uneasy balance. What is clear is that the situation has reached another dangerous moment. With military preparations underway, public statements growing sharper, and trust between Washington and Tehran at a low point, the potential for far-reaching consequences is real. Whether this period becomes another chapter in a long-running cycle of tension or a turning point towards something more serious will depend on decisions made under intense pressure, where clarity is scarce and the costs of error could be immense.